Hey everybody, today in this video we're going to talk about the greatest of all time in horsemanship, and there's more than one. So let's jump into it. First up, we got Tom Dorens. Now, if any man is considered a sage when it comes to this true horsemanship, true unity type stuff, it's Tom Dorens. He is the person who mentored Ray Hunt. He is the brother of Bill Dorens. Buck Brandman was also mentored by him. If you talk to pretty much any clinician today, it all leads back to Tom Dorens. He is the ultimate horsemanship person, and that's why I rank him as the number one horseman in at least American history. He is the person who basically planted the seeds for what we're seeing today. Before there were any Joe Walters, Martin Blacks, Clinton Andersons, Carson James, Pat Puckett, before any of them, before Buck Brandman, there was Tom Dorens. Now, I did mention that Ray Hunt was mentored by Tom Dorens. And so therefore, basically Tom Dorens is responsible for teaching Ray Hunt almost everything when it comes to horsemanship. Ray Hunt repeatedly says that he learned everything from Tom Dorens. This is the quintessential Tom Dorens book. It's called True Unity. And true unity with a horse is you think it and the horse does it. And let me read you some reviews from the back of the book. I call him the master. He's my horse guru. To watch him work with the horse is really something to see. I swear he crawls inside the horse's skin. Jane Harrison. Tom Dorens, by consensus, is one of the greatest horsemen around. I think one big thing Tom taught me is to see what I look at in everything, horses, cattle, people, to observe and compare. This book is dedicated to the man who made it possible, Tom Dorens. Ray Hunt said this. Tom helped me to feel free to experiment. I learned the importance of getting the horse with me because he wants to be with me. And so I highly recommend buying this book if you are pursuing horsemanship and learning more about the GOAT, Tom Dorens. Next on the list is Bill Dorens, the brother of Tom Dorens. Now, most families would be lucky to have just one child star, just one progeny who shapes an entire industry. But the Dorens family has two. Now, Tom Dorens, he was more of the sage, the guru. He would answer stuff in riddles. But Bill Dorens, he was more likely to get down into the nitty-gritty, into the technical. Bill Dorens, being the brother of Tom, I don't think that he had any envy or jealousy because honestly they were on equal footing. They just both demonstrate that great horsemen can have different style or a different way of teaching and explaining. And personally, I like the way Bill Dorens breaks things down. At least I did when I first started. Now I'm more into the riddles that Tom proposes in his book True Unity. And now I'm going to show you the book. This book is by Bill Dorens. It is called True Horsemanship Through Feel. And basically this book, as you can tell, is a lot thicker than Tom Dorrens's book. And that's because it has picture examples. It has so much stuff in here. Like, look at that. That is ridiculous. It'll literally explain everything that you think that you may want to know. And then when you're ready to take the next step, you start hitting those riddles from Tom. Let me put my bookmarks back in. And here's some reviews from it. If you take away everything that Bill is known for, his roping, the rawhide work, his horsemanship, all of it, what you find you have underneath is a really fine human being. That's from Buck Brandman. Bill Dorens has long been considered a master horseman. So long, in fact, that his enduring approach crosses all the lines among riding disciplines and events. Everyone from dressage competitor to team roper to trail rider can find something of benefit when he opens the book to learn true horsemanship through feel. How fortunate for the industry that Leslie Desmond has documented the master's techniques. Western Horseman magazine. And finally, there was no dominance in the way Dorens rode or in what he taught, only partnership. To the exalted horsemanship of the vaquero, the Spanish cowboy of the 18th century California, he brought an exalted humanity whose highest expression is faith in the willingness of the horse. So here you have it, True Horsemanship Through Feel, written by Bill Dorens, the second of the GOATs that we're analyzing tonight. Next up, we have Ray Hunt. Now, Ray Hunt, he is basically the student of the Dorens brothers. He is the next generation of horsemen. He is also the person who revolutionized the horse training industry. He's the person who, after Tom and Bill Dorens started doing clinics, Ray Hunt is the one who popularized true horsemanship through feel, the true unity style aspect. He could communicate with horses and people in a way that made them want to pursue the horse. I personally think that the thing that separates him between the Dorenses is just that he is the second generation. So he learned as much as he could from the Dorenses. Obviously, he couldn't pick it all up, but the things that he did learn, he did manage to pass it on to the next generation of horsemen. He refined the teaching techniques of Tom and Bill Dorens. And therefore, he deserves a spot on the greatest of all time list. And a lot of times people will say that they know Ray Hunt, but they don't know the Dorenses, which is a shame, but that's just a testament to the power that Ray Hunt had and still has within. This is one of Ray Hunt's books. It's titled Think Harmony with Horses, an in-depth study of horseman relationship, and it's edited by Millie Hunt. And within this book, we have not a how-to guide and not quite the riddles that Tom Dorens had, but something else entirely, almost a new way of teaching this true horsemanship. And so, highly recommend this book. I highly recommend you become a disciple of Ray Hunt and the next generation of riders. And now, this book is honestly amazing. I mean, I could turn to any page and read something to you, and we would all be flabbergasted, right? For example, how do you start a horse? It's not cut and dried how I start a horse. There's no particular thing I do. ... I want you to visualize for yourself so you can picture what's happening. You will realize you have to adjust to fit the situation. It's all different, yet it's all the same. And it's stuff like this that pushes people to pursue horsemanship even further. Next on the list is arguably the most famous horseman, Western horseman of all time. And that's the Buck Brandman. Now, Buck Brandman, he's well known as being the horse whisperer. They wrote the movie about him. I think it's called The Horse Whisperer. I might be mistaken. I'll fix that if it's not. But they wrote a movie about him. He wrote The Faraway Horses. He's met the Queen of England. He puts on the Brandman Pro-Am. He is honestly a legend. But where does it come from? Buck Brandman is a disciple of Ray Hunt, who is therefore a disciple of the Dorenses, which makes Buck Brandman a third generation horseman from the Dorenses and Ray Hunt. Therefore, when somebody then tells you, hey, Buck Brandman's the greatest of all time, you say, no, it's actually the Dorenses and Ray Hunt. Buck Brandman may have been the best teacher, and he may have been around for the longest time and been able to put out a lot of movies and traveled around more than the Hunts and the Dorenses, but that doesn't mean he's the greatest. However, I still rank him as the fourth greatest in the true horsemanship, greatest of all time category. And that's Buck Brandman. Now, one of Buck Brandman's books that I have is Believe. And it's not necessarily him writing, but him responding to people's stories in different scenarios. His more famous book, The Faraway Horses, is a lot better representation of who Buck Brandman is and his life story. But this book is also really good if you want to pick it up. And I can read some of it to you. It says, a lesson worth learning from a master horseman. That's from Western Horseman. A love of nature and instinct for finding a horse's spirit and the caring of the human soul embody the character, and in doing so, they embody the life of Buck Brandman, true West. There's a point in horsemanship when horse and horseman know enough about each other that a third thing, another dimension, begins to be part of the relationship. It's upon this element that the real ride takes place, and in Believe we can see the makers along the journey. That's Tom McGuane. And so I recommend buying this book and learning as much as you can about Buck Brandman and going to one of his clinics and talking to him. He's a very personal person. He would be glad to talk to you. And some honorable mentions for the greatest of all time. They would have to go to people like Joe Walter, Pat Puckett, anybody who had direct experience with the Dorenses and who is now a clinician. They typically are part of that second and third generation, those Ray Hunts and Buck Brandmans. And there's too many of them to put all into this list, but I just wanted to go through the greatest of all time. And so thank you for watching. Subscribe and like for some more content. I'm going to be doing some more videos in the future about horsemanship. I know a lot of history, so there'll probably be some history videos coming out. And maybe I can get some of these horsemen onto the channel, and who knows, we'll see what happens. So like and subscribe and give me a message if you want to hang out or whatever. I know probably none of you do, so adios.